Did the ninth largest country with a $2.1 trillion GDP just make a Bitcoin backflip? Today, we're going to be talking about the country that's supposed to be the fifth most democratic country in the world. We're talking about the same country that actually banned and attacked freedom protesters who were using Bitcoin to escape their banking bans back in 2022. Of course, we are talking about Canada. And I find it really strange that one of Bitcoin's harshest enemies, Canada, might be showing some signs that maybe, just maybe, they're warming up to Bitcoin. Why do I say all of that? Well, that's because the mayor of Vancouver is now pushing to introduce a Bitcoin strategic reserve for his city. Now, again, some people will say Vancouver's just a city. It's not Canada. It's not the whole country, Luke. I understand that. But Vancouver is a pivotal part. They're a pivotal city of Canada, okay? They're an enormous city. And if one of the largest cities is making really bold moves like this, you really don't think that he has the approval of the top dog and what's actually going on in Canada. And what is going on in Canada right now is a power shift. Trudeau is coming up for re-election. And right now, guess who's favorite to win that election in Canada? A Bitcoin president. So again, when we kind of piece all of these jigsaw puzzle pieces together, I think we can begin to see that maybe this headline, which wouldn't be very big news in and of itself, might actually be showing us something about the ninth largest country. Again, Canada should be watched because they are an enormous country. We're going to be breaking down this article here in a moment, but I just want to show you how big Vancouver is. They're a $158 billion GDP city. Again, I know, big numbers. Let's put that into perspective. El Salvador's GDP, it's around 30 billion. So Vancouver is, let's do some quick maths, Luke. Vancouver is about 5 times bigger than El Salvador. They're also part of Canada, one of Bitcoin's haters, okay? I think I'm still shocked that these headlines are not getting any attention. I'm still really surprised that nobody's paying attention to what's happened this week. I really do feel like we've had some of the most bullish news this week that I think I've ever seen. Again, I haven't been in Bitcoin that long. I was a little bit late to the party. I got here in 2017. But this week, I believe, was probably the most bullish news week that I've seen. And that's because it wasn't just Canada. Who are those other flags we have over there to the right of the screen? This is difficult. Sometimes it's mirrored. I don't know which way you guys are watching me. But let's not forget, Morocco, the 5th wealthiest country in Africa, has done a Bitcoin backflip. Okay, that's the red flag in the image next to me. Okay, we also have Brazil, the largest country in Latin America, home to 216 million people. Right now, they're discussing a Bitcoin strategic reserve. We also have Russia legalizing Bitcoin mining. Again, they've been doing this for a little while now. Russia's played their hand and been very pro Bitcoin for a number of years now, since they got their US dollar reserves frozen in 2022. So this isn't the biggest news, but Morocco to come out and say, yeah, 7 years ago, we banned Bitcoin and crypto. For them to come out this week and completely backflip, big news, okay? The same with Brazil. Again, Brazil is, I'm not going to get into politics, but let's just say the leader of Brazil, Lula, I mean, let's just talk about what they're doing in the country. They've banned Twitter. I don't have to call him a communist, okay? The actions of the leader says everything that I wish to say, okay? Again, when has banning free speech ever ended well? Never. Certainly doesn't end in freedom. You can't vote your way out of that, okay? What do they say? You can't vote your way out of tyranny. Okay, that's sadly the path that country is on. So I was shocked to see that there is now a strategic Bitcoin reserve bill being discussed in, yours truly, Brazil. But again, they're not the only country where a strategic Bitcoin reserve bill is being discussed. We're going to come back to the nation state FOMO
to the standing committee meeting
a little bit later in today's video. But I want to first check out this video here because this is the mayor of Vancouver, one of the biggest cities in Canada. And you guys can see pretty clearly, okay? He was at a very official meeting this week, and they are right now trying to preserve the purchasing power of their currency through being a Bitcoin-friendly city. It was his exact words. And again, I don't want you guys to forget just what happened in Canada only not too many years ago. We're going to be discussing that in a moment. But again, let's not forget, Canada, depending upon how you measure it, they're the 9th or the 10th largest economy in the world. They're incredibly rich. They're incredibly wealthy. And their next leader, as we kind of discussed earlier in the video, Pierre, please don't butcher his last name, Poilievre, is not only a Bitcoin fan, but he's opposed to central bank digital currencies. So again, this is kind of emblematic of this sea change that I think we're seeing in Canada. Okay, we kind of saw something similar earlier this year. We documented what happened with Santa Monica. It was a little city in California who became the first city in the world to be, or first city in America to create a Bitcoin office. And at the time, we were like, that's weird. California is very left-leaning, very blue, very woke, very progressive. And again, I don't want to generalize and categorize people and put them in buckets that they are not in, but typically these, let's just say Elizabeth Warren has been the perfect example or embodiment of these values in America. And she hates Bitcoin. I think that's an okay way to frame this, okay? So I was surprised when California, this left-leaning state, again, they've got 50% taxes. That very left-leaning. I don't think that's controversial to say. The people living there are pushing up with that. But for them to create the first Bitcoin office, I said, this is interesting. Maybe this is a sign that we're going to start seeing some trend changes. Maybe Santa Monica wants to get ahead of the pack. They want to get ahead of the rest. I think we're seeing the same thing in Canada. And the next president is going to be banning central bank digital currencies. He loves Bitcoin, and he's being grilled about Bitcoin by all of the other politicians in the country. I don't know if you guys saw this video or not, but I'm going to play it because I think it highlights the tone in Canada regarding how people who like freedom are treated in the country.
Talk about the advice that he has for Canadians on the economy and on fighting inflation. Let's talk about his advice that he gave, which was you can opt out of inflation by investing in crypto. If people had listened to him, and I fear some probably did, they would have lost at least 65% of their money, maybe all of it. It's time for him to apologize, Mr. Speaker.
we know
You see how loud the government is when Bitcoin was down by 65%. But will Chrystia Freeland, I believe that's her name, will she come out and admit, hang on a minute, maybe Pierre Poilievre gave us some good advice? Because right now, Bitcoin is absolutely ripping. Bitcoin is absolutely pumping. So again, she got cheered on a little bit in that speech when Bitcoin was down by 65%. But the Bitcoin critics and the Bitcoin haters aren't so loud right now. Because when we do check in on the price, we can see Bitcoin just closed its largest monthly candle in history. Let's check this puppy out. Let's have a look at how big it is, because we've just seen an incredible month of November. Again, a lot of people said, oh, just because Bitcoin normally returns, 40% average returns in November, it doesn't matter, because this year is different because Bitcoin's a bigger market cap now. Bitcoin's a bigger asset, so we can't expect to see the same returns. This is what the critics, the deniers, and the naysayers were saying about Bitcoin just months ago when we were in this consolidation range between $50,000 and $60,000. Nobody believed we could put in a big 40% month because that would represent a $30,000 candle. The naysayers said that's impossible. The naysayers have just been proven very, very wrong. And Bitcoin right now is, what's that, consolidating at about $96,000 per coin. Still feels crazy to say. And when we check in on BTC price in the Canadian dollar, we can see a similar story. All-time highs, 134,000 Canadian cuck bucks. That's how much one Bitcoin costs you in the land of the not so free. Again, I don't want to feel like I'm picking on Canada. Let's tune into the other side of the world here and have a look at my Australian friends. Have a look at that. 147,000 big ones. 147,000 Australian dollars for one Bitcoin. Still feels crazy to say those words and those numbers out loud. Again, when I first learned about Bitcoin and began buying Bitcoin, it was 2017, 2018. I think it was 3,000 Australian dollars, 4,000 Australian dollars when I first started buying and preaching to the world to buy Bitcoin. I was very passionate trying to orange pill normies back in 2017 and 2018. We have I believe it was the biggest candle we just saw from a monthly perspective when you look at it in a dollar term. And this is a great point that Mega Skater has raised in the chat. Germany sold their 55,000 Bitcoin, literally at the bottom. I'm going to show you guys on a chart what Mega Skater here is talking about because it's a great point that needs to be talked about. Germany sold their Bitcoin right there. I think their average sell price was like $55,000. Again, we're looking at the Australian chart. I'll put it in dollars for you guys. But again, I think you understand what's cooking here. Germany literally sold their Bitcoin right there. 55,000 US dollars. What can you do? Governments are just going to do what governments do. And that is make incompetent decisions. I mean, that right there is an incompetent decision to panic sell Bitcoin in a relatively illiquid market. Or let me be careful with how I phrase that. Bitcoin's one of the most liquid markets in the world. But if you're going to try to market sell $2 billion of the stuff in the space of hours and days, you're going to see a little bit of slippage. And it's not the smartest thing to come out and publicly say, yeah, we're going to be dumping the Bitcoin, and then just try to panic sell it on whenever they sold. I can't remember if it was the weekend or not, but again, that will go down as one of the biggest blunders in governmental history. Germany panic selling their Bitcoin. Okay, we all remember the UK and their government deciding to sell their Bitcoin. We all call that Brown's bottom, when President Brown sold all of the UK's gold. This was over 25 years ago at the very peako bottom of like a 20-year bear market. So again, put this on a chart so you guys can see just how big of a blunder that decision was. Oh no, I don't have the chart. I do not have the chart. You're just going to have to trust me. The number one rule of Bitcoin, don't trust, verify. But you guys are going to have to trust me. That's the price of gold. And the Prime Minister of England, after the price of gold going down for 20 years, sold gold at the very bottom at around $200 an ounce, right at the bottom. And then gold proceeded to aggressively rally for the past 25 years, from $200 an ounce to $2,900 an ounce recently. I'd love to get you the full chart so you can just see just how incredible that was. Okay, here we go. Now we're cooking. So the price of gold did this from 1980 to the late 1990s. Gold did that. Prime Minister of England sold the country's gold right there, right at the peako bottom. And you know what happens. Okay, so I believe the German government is going to be remembered in a pretty similar light for selling the best performing asset in history in not a smart way. Okay, and I really do think the Prime Minister of England has not been remembered well for that decision to sell his Bitcoin. And I think, you know, our future generations are going to be remembering us in a similar light. Like, I genuinely believe our grandkids are going to be thinking of us, the older generations, as, you know, heroes or not, because of the answer to one question. Did you buy Bitcoin or not? I really do think those who are buying Bitcoin today will be the new revolutionaries. They will be incredibly wealthy. They will be able to provide generational wealth for their future generations. And I think those who hated Bitcoin, ignored to look at Bitcoin, dragged their feet and muddied the waters and even attacked Bitcoin. I don't want to wish bad things for people. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that maybe their future generations will just be like, damn, my granddad or my grandma said some pretty silly things about a new technology that they didn't understand. I wish they had spent a few more hours investigating Bitcoin. I tell you guys, I genuinely believe you only really need to spend 2 hours looking at Bitcoin, 5 hours looking at Bitcoin to come to the realization that there's something more here. Maybe I should do more research. Maybe I should buy just a little bit of Bitcoin. Because when you do buy just a little bit of Bitcoin, you do begin to understand it just a little bit better. I think you do anyway. I think having a little bit of skin in the game is the perfect way to force yourself to learn something about it. That's how I started. Again, it took me years to sell all of my assets and buy Bitcoin. For a very long time, I was dipping my toe in the water, 1% allocation, 2% allocation, 5% allocation. Again, in hindsight, I wish I'd gone all in as soon as I was buying Bitcoin. But again, your allocation size should match your education. If you are looking to learn about Bitcoin and simply buy more Bitcoin or even dip your toe in the water, I'd love to let you guys know about Rhino Bitcoin. They are the all-in-one Bitcoin super application where you can buy Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin, and even use the Lightning Network to send Bitcoin all around the world. And we actually have some really special news for you guys today about Rhino Bitcoin. They're actually going to give you guys $10 of free Bitcoin if you sign up with them and use a promo code Bitcoin News. Again, who doesn't like free Bitcoin? Once you sign up, you will see that they have one of the slickest applications there is in the entire space. Their user interface is intuitive, it's easy, it's everything a beginner Bitcoiner could ever hope for. So again, we highly encourage you guys to check out what Rhino Bitcoin is doing. We know there's probably a lot of new people in the Bitcoin space. We get that. We get that. We understand Bitcoin's difficult at first. We understand it. Bitcoin's not the most intuitive thing, the same way that the internet was not the most intuitive thing. But we have a link down below in the description of today's video that's going to take you to Rhino Bitcoin, where you can use that promo code Bitcoin News and get $10 of free Bitcoin. So we highly recommend you check out what they're doing today. Now, something else we highly recommend you check out today is keeping an eye on what's happening with this nation-state race in Bitcoin. Again, things are really escalating in here, guys. I've showed you this tweet multiple times. Things are moving. Morocco, Russia, China, Brazil, all this week are responding to the election of Donald Trump. Nine Crows says that gold makes nice jewelry, but that's about it. Unless you're in Iraq, then toilet seats. Okay, I couldn't make sense of the rest of that. Comment there, but he makes a great point. Gold makes nice jewelry, but what else? Gold is being demonetized right before our eyes, and it's only a matter of time before Bitcoin flips the market cap of gold. And again, I think All Night Hider makes a great point here in the chat. Actions speak louder than words. And Bitcoin's actions recently was it just flipped a 5,000-year-old money, silver. Bitcoin has a bigger market cap than silver. Think about that. Bitcoin is 15 years old. Silver, 5,000 years old. And our society values Bitcoin more than something that's been around for 5,000 years. A lot of people just say that these Bitcoiners are just throwing around unsubstantiated claims and they're pumping retail with their bullish hopium. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm more bullish than most people. And I do genuinely believe most people, even most Bitcoiners, probably 99% of you guys tuning into this live stream, are too bearish on Bitcoin. But I mean, the facts are on our side. Let's be honest here. Really? We flipped 5,000-year-old money after 15 years? Think about that. I mean, an anonymous person with the name Satoshi Nakamoto just released some lines of code onto the internet, emailed it to 20 guys and said, hey, this is cool, check it out. I mean, 15 years later, we have a top 10 most valuable asset in the world. I mean, there's 58,000 public companies. There's 333 million companies and businesses worldwide. 330 million businesses. Bitcoin's top 10. Think about that. Bitcoin is the way. Bitcoin is freedom. As my great friends Nick and James say, Bitcoin is freedom. Brazil might buy 3 Satoshis of Bitcoin. Hopefully they buy more. They're proposing to put 5% of the country's international reserves into Bitcoin. It's not chump change. 5%. I believe it would represent a $3 billion buy. It's a hell of a buy. I wonder how many of you guys are buying tonight. There's 2,645 of you guys tuning in from YouTube and Twitter. I don't know what time it is where you guys are right now, but it's 9 o'clock where I am. I had a little bit of a busy day. I don't know if my messy hair can give it away, but I had a haircut and a massage that went well overdue. Went way too long. So I apologize for those who are waiting. But it looks as if still a lot of you guys like to tune into the late night, the late Saturday night Bitcoin content. All right. The comment section is starting to embody the fact that it's a late Saturday night. All night hider here is letting loose. All right, guys. Pay close attention to Canada. I think this news is being seriously overblown. Overblown? It's been underrated. Sorry. That's what I'm saying. This news has been underrated. Nobody's giving this enough attention. I think it's a sign of bigger things to come. Really do think we're watching a little bit of nation state FOMO happen right now. If you missed our video early in the week, as you can see, we did a live stream yesterday talking about the 8th largest country in the world just adopting Bitcoin. So think about that for a moment. The 8th largest country in the world, Brazil, is talking about creating a Bitcoin strategic reserve. In the same week, the 9th largest country, Canada, one of their largest cities, Vancouver, is talking about doing the same thing. Dominoes are falling. Again, if you missed that live stream we did yesterday, talking about Brazil in a little bit more detail and Michael Saylor's secret trip to Brazil. After this live stream is finished, I'm going to put a link to that video somewhere around there. And with all that said, thank you so much to the 2,767 of you guys tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, I hope you come back for more. Again, maybe if you subscribe on YouTube, press the little button down below. You might get notified when we go live again. We do go live 2 to 3 times a week, so stay tuned for that. And again, if you enjoy the content, you can molest the like button. That's what we're told helps with the algos. So both of those things you can do. It's free for you, and you get notified when more Bitcoin content drops. So take advantage of that. And with all that said, take advantage of enjoying the rest of your Saturday night. I'm going to end this stream right